Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. Are we a republic or are we a monarchy? Who is really in charge in Washington? That is the question which we are going to confront. Some months ago, I asked a simple question. When will this all get to the Supreme Court? It seems to me it will get there sooner rather than later. Let me give you some examples of why there is increasing concern. When the Congress voted to authorize the creation of the Department of Education in 1979, the law was swiftly signed into law by President Jimmy Carter. President Donald Trump is dismantling the Department of Education. But today, he will sign an executive order essentially killing the Department of Education. Certain functions of the department will be transferred, we are told, to the Department of Commerce. But the simple truth is, Donald Trump is taking unilateral action to implement a campaign promise. Now, I want to remind you that a campaign promise is not a law. A campaign promise is not something which can be unilaterally enacted by executive order. Quite the contrary, there is a process in American democracy. And the question the court will have to decide is, who is in charge? That's right. Now, we know right now on the court there are 3 liberals, and there are 2 votes on the court which seem to be in question. Justice John Roberts, the Chief Justice, and Amy Coney Barrett, who was nominated and confirmed by the Senate and who now sits on the Supreme Court. Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett are both considered nominal conservatives, but we know that they are prepared to stand up and speak out boldly in their opinions when it comes to the question of the exercise of presidential power. Now, the White House is taking a gamble. They believe, with perfect faith, that the conservative majority on the court will hold and that the powers of the president will be upheld. It's a risky gamble because when you challenge the existing order, that is to say, the balance of powers that have existed in this country, in this fashion, boy, oh boy, are we in for a ride. And that includes the attack on Social Security. Let me remind you that just yesterday, the idea of phoning in a change, well, that's out the window. The problem is that Social Security offices are being closed. So where will people go when they want to make a change in their Social Security? This is a serious question because I believe that Dwight Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States and a Republican, was correct when he said if you tamper with Social Security, the American people will sidetrack your political party. Is that true? And there is another question. You now have Elon Musk, who is not the head of a department, but rather a person empowered by Donald Trump, contributing massive amounts of money to those who would suggest that it is time to impeach judges. Chief Justice Roberts issued a stern rebuke, pointing out that impeachment of judges, well, that's not the way to go. If you have a problem, appeal it. We have had one justice of the United States Supreme Court threatened with impeachment. That was Justice Story. The year was 1805. And the presiding officer at his trial, outgoing Vice President Aaron Burr. The Senate refused categorically to impeach Justice Chase. And so we do not have a history of this process in this fashion. And Republicans are concerned about overreach of power. For the first time, the chairmen of the Senate Armed Services Committee and the House Armed Services Committee have rejected a notion by the White House of adjusting the military command. There is now a feeling by Republicans that Donald Trump is overreaching. There is another question that needs to be answered this morning. Look at the attacks taking place on Tesla. Now, I don't mean just the rhetorical attacks. I mean the attacks, physical attacks, being made against Tesla as a company and individuals driving Tesla cars. This is something which must be rejected by everyone, and to my certain knowledge, has been rejected by everyone. But the question of Tesla, where you have the White House essentially endorsing the purchase of Teslas, and in fact, having the cars displayed on the White House lawn. And now you have the example of individuals in the government who are promoting Tesla, and that to me is, well, wrong. Secretary of Commerce should not be out endorsing the purchase of the Tesla as an automobile. Do you understand there is a line being crossed here? Now, several of you, including my friend Rob, have emailed me extensively on why I suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. No, I don't. I am simply taking the powers of the president, which Donald Trump is trying to expand, and suggesting in the strongest possible terms that these are abuses of power. The only way he can be restrained, the only way that the balance of powers can be restored, is if the Supreme Court acts. The idea that lower courts have no power over a president is ridiculous. And let me say very clearly that the president is clearly in defiance of the courts. And his top aides are saying they don't have to abide by a decision of a lower court. And they even cast doubt on whether or not they have to obey a rule or an order by the United States Supreme Court. This is a moment of testing for the United States on so many different levels. But I want to make clear to all of you who listen to this podcast, unless the balance of power is restored, unless limits are put on what Donald Trump can do by executive order, unless the Congress reasserts its powers, this country will no longer be a republic. It will be a monarchy for all intents and purposes. Oh, one last quick point. There are those who have suggested that Donald Trump could run for another term. No, he can't. The 22nd Amendment to the Constitution is clear, nor should he be able to run for a third term under the terms of the Constitution of the United States. These are simple facts, and I don't think they're disputable. We face a constitutional crisis, and the day of reckoning will come sooner rather than later. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, of course, is our goal. You can interact with me on Facebook, on LinkedIn. You can contact me by email, and you can argue with me. You can dispute with me. And I must tell you, I appreciate the feedback from so many of you. And now, a special word of thanks, Gogo Zoger, who produces this podcast. I want you to know that what she does is great, but it's up to you to follow along. It's up to you to let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving the review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow. That's your job. I am John Rothman. I will be back tomorrow with more Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you then.